evidence of it. I've experienced it. I know there's millions of others out there who've experienced what I'm talking about. And we have a history of watching Christianity just, transform the globe. And, Jesus himself being, the most influential person who's ever lived. If somebody can show me evidence to the contrary of that, I'd be willing to listen. But just the dramatic effect he has had on the planet can't be due to people misunderstanding who he is. And that this misunderstanding has now characterized millions of lives since him in the same transformative way, based on a misconception of who God is, that we don't really need a savior. But those people who submit to the idea of needing a savior, well, their lives are changed forever, and many of them, if not most of them, have experienced transforming power in their lives, all because they believed a superstition or applied themselves wrongly. Does that make any sense? No. So, now, the other idea here that's coming to mind is, should it make sense? I mean, what of faith should make sense? Well, how will I say that? I'll just tell you my own understanding. My own understanding is that it's like the yin and yang symbol. I love the yin and yang symbol. I'm sorry, all you fundamentalist Christians out there who just hate it whenever I talk about the yin and yang symbol. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that bothers you. I hope that in the future, when I speak of it or anyone else speaks of it, you won't be bothered by it. But the power of the yin and yang symbol is this idea in my mind, this is how I look at it, that the life force itself in the world is this delicate balance between forces. And you have, in this case, the force of intellect and faith that are most life-producing when delicately balanced within the individual in a way where the decisions that are personally made bring life to the joining of what appear to be opposing forces, in this case, faith and reason, so that faith is reasonable and reason is I don't know what the term would be for faith, faith inspired. I don't know how to say it, but just look at it in this way, like the greatest scientists believe something to be true. I mean, there's faith that there's faith behind believing in evolution. There's faith behind believing in the Big Bang. There's enough data to suggest a certain position, and then there's sort of a leap of faith to then call it fact. And the opposite, and on the other side, it's reasonable to believe certain things. Otherwise, we wouldn't believe them. It's not like faith is totally illogical. For instance, you might say, well, it's illogical that miracles occur. Okay, well, by definition, miracles are not logical. I mean, something occurs that there's no physical law responsible for the end result, then yeah, it's illogical. But look at it this way. It's probably more, in my opinion, it's more reasonable to believe in the resurrection of Jesus than that he was, that his body just decayed in the ground. Why do I say that? Well, because you have years of prophecy of a coming Savior. You have the life of Jesus fulfilling several prophecies. You have the millions of lives that have been changed as a result of his life. And what is it about his life that was so transforming? Well, if you look at the content of his life, it was based on supernatural, illogical activity. So much so that even his death has resulted in no ability to find bones or any remnant of where his body might be, or even a reasonable theory that his frightened disciples would risk further persecution and death by stealing his body. In fact, they didn't even believe that he was going to be raised from the dead based on their behavior prior to his death. So my point is, if you look at historically, what we have as close to historical fact as we have, and collecting data of Jesus' life, it speaks more to his resurrection and essential nature to which he was committed to revealing to us than that he was just any old man. I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. I think it's odd to me that people look for, as soon as we can prove the existence of God, and as soon as there's enough data that we can collect to determine that Jesus is Lord, or Jesus is who he says he is, then we just won't believe. Well, there isn't enough data to prove that evolution is true, but you have plenty of very intelligent, respectable scientists who support it as fact without it truly being fact, or support the idea of a Big Bang when the data isn't conclusive. Well, I think so. My point is, you have scientists believing, having faith in their theories. Then why should Christians who have equal amount of verifiable data for them to believe that Jesus is Lord? Especially if there seems to be more data that prove there's more data to prove that Jesus is Lord than not. And in the same way, I would say maybe there's enough data to show that the Big Bang did occur, then not. So it makes sense that people would, buy into that theory. Well, we buy into the theory that Jesus came to save lost souls, was resurrected from the dead, and anyone that believes in him can experience a life-changing, have a life-changing experience, for the rest of their life. So I guess what I'm having trouble saying this, but it bothers me that people have a negative opinion of people of faith as if they're illogical, and I'm just trying to tell you that they're collecting data just like scientists collect data.